Hey y'all.
Hey guys, we were just talking about the dual entry page for for putting listings in. Andrew's already got a listing. Um,
And I was helping him with the FMLS last night and then or yesterday, and then I was going to do it I hate that dual entry. And then I'll go to the
too.
one on Georgia MLS.
I use Ditto to go to Georgia.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yes. Yeah.
Ditto.
I like
Ditto.
that much better than that bridge listing
Yeah.
input.
Sorry, we were having
So,
our
what do
script.
you do?
Ditto.
So you go to Georgia MLS
After
too?
you've entered it into FMLS.
Okay, after
Yeah.
FMLS, you go and enter it again on the Georgia MLS.
Well, but you use a tool called Ditto.
Ditto.
Yes.
Hang on, I'm going to it.
so you put it into FMLS directly, then you go to Georgia MLS and ditto it, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so you don't use the bridge at all.
No.
Correct.
Okay, and then do you use what document do you use when you're walking through the house so that you remember to look where the attic is and what type of whether it has ridge vents and like street lights and all the things that like sidewalks, all the things that we forget to look for.
Well,
The
I
FMLS.
also, when I am there, I talk to the agent, the seller, and I just say, I say, do you mind if I take just a few pictures? These are just for my use.
Yeah.
And so I'll take a picture of the exterior as I'm, either getting there or leaving. And, pictures in the kitchen, especially, it's like, was it gas or electric?
Right.
That kind of stuff.
So you don't have a page that you walk in with?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't either. I usually just write it down. But I sent Andrew the FMLS listing sheet the other day. Like if you're paying somebody else to put it in,
That's
but I don't use that. I just
that's
send it
the
in.
input sheet, right? That's
It's
the input sheet?
To me, it was, I'll say, too detailed that I felt like I was focusing on it and not the people.
Right.
Okay.
So that's what I take lots of pictures and I ask questions like the hot water heater, is it gas or electric? Is the is your heating unit gas or is it a heat pump? That kind of stuff.
Right. So I guess the short answer for you, Andrew, is that you can use that input sheet.
Yeah.
And I would probably, I could probably give you a list of 5 or 10 things that I always used to forget. And I'd have to go and check the first time I went to the house afterward.
Yeah.
Like, does it have sidewalks? Does it have street lights? Where's the attic?
Yeah.
Right. Those are some of the main ones that I would always forget. But then you'll get into the habit of, okay, well, I know I need to know how many bedrooms and baths it has and what floor it's on and what floor those units are on. With respect to the disclosure statements, particularly the community disclosure statement, I'll go ahead and say this for everyone's benefit, is I know that Melba would probably kill me by saying this, but I think that it is their job to fill it out, and it is your job to make sure it's filled out properly. So what I would do is I would send a blank copy of the disclosure statement, which is what you did yesterday, to the seller and say, okay, I want you to fill this out. And then I would call the HOA, or at the same time, I would call the HOA and ask them all the questions myself, right? Because it's not uncommon that, let's say I bought a home 8 years ago in the neighborhood, and now all of a sudden they have a new transfer fee. Or now all of a sudden there's a little initiation fee that no one knew about, or I didn't have to pay when I bought, but now buyers have to pay. So you always want to go back and they may not know, right? Like genuinely not know. So I always go back and build that relationship with the HOA rep right
But
away.
a lot of times they won't talk to you. A lot of times they will not talk to you.
Well, I haven't run into that, and if they do, I'm gonna three-way the seller in and be like, hey, quit being an idiot. I have a few questions for you.
No, I think, are you referring to the HOA, Jenny?
Yes.
Yeah.
I've never had any pushback from that personally, but look, if you do, then get the seller on the phone and get the answers you need.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I told Andrew the other day, and I always tell my followers, make sure you speak with somebody at a HOA, go over it with them, and get everything like it's supposed to be. Because for an example, you bought your house 8 years ago, the initiation fee was $350. Now the initiation fee is $700. If you don't confirm that and you put $350, you're going to end up paying the additional $350 for that initiation fee.
Right.
That's right. That gets them.
The contract states that the buyer, or I'm sorry, that the seller will pay that. But if you don't help facilitate that, if that comes as a surprise to the seller, they're going to come to you for that money.
Yep.
So you want to make sure that you're taking care of that stuff up front. Okay. I also think that it is worthwhile to take a peek at the seller's disclosure statement and do the same thing. So for example, I always like to, Melba would kill me if she saw this call. I think that it is, you know, when it says like, okay, there was a water issue in the basement. I want to read the way they explained that water issue and make sure that that is thorough yet brief, right? And that it reads the way I want it to read, because I'm the one marketing the property. And so I might have them reword it, right? Not change it, not lie, not be deceptive, but just have it read the way I want it to read, right? I also want it to be, I want it to be sharp. Like, I don't want the agent to look at the disclosure statement and see that I left off, you know, switch plate covers and be like, okay, they don't have any attention to detail. This is our opportunity to make it nice and simple for the other party. And when it's nice and simple, oftentimes they let their guard down and you get what you want for your client.
Mhm.
Right.
Oh, that's a good point, Bill.
So, for example, like I would go in and say, okay, I know you didn't check switch plate covers. You probably overlooked it. I assume you're leaving your switch plate covers. Is that correct? Right? Are you leaving your mirrors? Are you leaving your the TV dish thing, right? And make sure that that's buttoned up so that, like, let's say the buyer one is really concerned. Maybe they're a high S or something, or their agent's a high S, and then they want you to redo the disclosure because you didn't check switch plate covers. And next thing you know, you just created a whole big headache of back and forth, and it's going to happen at 10 o'clock at night when you don't feel like working with real estate. See what I'm saying? So get all that stuff out when there's no deadlines and there's no pressure. Just make it tight, make it look good. Okay. Now,
And make sure they answered everything.
Make sure they answer everything. Pam and I are involved in a situation right now, which is no fault of our own, but there are some serious repercussions for sellers that either blatantly lie or kind of lie on the disclosure statement.
I hope they're not your seller.
No, they were our buyers.
There are buyers, and the seller was warned in writing by the HOA that the HOA thought that they had a foundation issue. They ignored that. Then they did not disclose that, and it was not caught by the inspector. And our folks purchased the home, and now it looks like there's a foundation issue on our buyer's home. And so the seller is not going to get away with that. And as long as Pam's involved and as long as I'm involved and I know these buyers, and I have...
They won't drop it.
No, they're not going to drop it. They're not.
And they shouldn't.
Exactly.
So they've already closed.
Oh yeah, they closed a year ago.
Yeah, this is a long time ago.
Oh man.
Yeah. And so now, and I know, I don't know if you know him, Michael O'Neill from Carroll Clark Law. He is ruthless. And the combination of all of us, they're not going to get away with this.
Is that who they know? Because she and I have emailed, I need to send you copies so you're informed, but is that who she knows? Because she said she knows somebody.
No, this is somebody I've known since the very beginning, basically. I talked to Jonathan about it this morning.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, the disclosure statements are critical. Please make sure those disclosure statements are buttoned up. Okay. Don't just think, oh, it's the seller's job to fill it out. No, it's your job to make sure the presentation of the home is as sharp as it can be. That's your job.
So what should you do? Should you have them fill it out and then give it to you, or should you like sit down with them while they fill it out? You're
I don't
saying?
sit down with anybody.
Oh, don't. Okay.
No, I
No.
give them a copy of it and say, you know, when I'm doing my listing presentation and say, or once they've decided to list with me, and
Yeah.
and say, here, you know, I want you to have this so you can begin filling it out, but it's better if we do that online so that it's legible for everyone, and also it gives you an opportunity to learn a little more about the online system, so you're not having to do that when you've got an offer.
Right. And I would, so then we piggyback on what Pam just said. Now they filled it out online and they left something off, or I didn't like the way something read. And I say, I appreciate you filling it out. However, you didn't check that the switch plate covers were included. So I'm going to send it back to you, and I want you to do that and then sign it again.
Okay.
Right.
Or say if you were doing your listing presentation and you guys go over the seller's disclosure and they fill it out, and let's say they get it back to you at some point, and could you fill it out with everything they said, just word it better?
No, I mean, if they fill it out in hand, then I would potentially fill it out on the computer for them,
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
and
that's
ask
what
them to sign it, and then keep a copy of the one that they signed and quadruple check it like 4 different times. But no, I want them to get accustomed to doing that stuff online. Very rarely, even if they agree to work with you, like right there at the listing appointment, I wouldn't spend the time with them going through, okay, now, has there ever been any leaks at your home?
Yeah.
Or call the
Yeah.
electrician.
How old is your your water heater? Yeah.
Right.
No.
That's their homework. We want them to get we want them to understand that they're a partner in the process.
Yeah.
It's not, I'm going to fill out everything. I'm not coming over every week to clean your toilets. This is your home. I'm just the one marketing it. Right.
Yeah.
And plus I tend to be on the impatient side a little bit. So once they say I'm good, I'm packing up my stuff and I'm getting a signature and I'm heading out. It's time to go home.
And then I also have one more question. So is there a simple, easy way to find the HOA's phone number?
A lot of times the homeowner knows it.
What if they don't?
I mean, they're getting some form of communication from their HOA, almost always. I mean, whether it's an annual bill or whether they're on some type of newsletter that says, hey, we're going to be, you know, paving the streets this week or something like that. There's generally some form of communication. And
Also, you can look at the other agents have put it in there in another listing in the same neighborhood.
yeah, that's another good idea. Exactly. So you can go in and say, hey, I'm not sure if you're the right one or not. You may not have the right person's number. You know, those jobs are not a lot of love at those jobs. Sometimes the HOA rep changes pretty frequently. So it might take you a few minutes to get to the right person. But again, that is your job. Your job is to get to the right person. Okay. All right. Who's doing red day today?
Me.
All right. When do I get to see you, Jenny?
1 or 1:30 is my time.
All right. I'm not sure what our story is, if we're hanging out mostly at the office today or we're hanging out at the site mostly today. But I think the leadership team's going over there right around that time. Cool. Who else?
I am.
What are you guys doing?
My time is 1 to 1:30 too. Bringing food over.
Awesome. Like they say, never. Oh man, I'm gonna get controversial for a second. Like they say, you know, never let a crisis go to waste. Never let a contribution go to waste. Right? Tell the world about this. Let people know that you're spending time helping others today. I know you're doing it out of the kindness of your heart, but don't forget to let people know that you have a heart. Okay? If all they see is you putting up listings and you talking about real estate, but you don't talk about service in the community, they don't think you do any of it. So don't be afraid to tell people what you're up to today. Right? You don't have to be, you know, your hair doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to be wearing a suit. You just come in there with a stack of canned goods with a KW hat on or something like that, and just let people know that you're contributing today. Okay.
I'm making a financial contribution since I'm not in town right now.
That's generally my MO too. You can donate with your time or you can donate with your money, and either of those are acceptable. And when you have used your time to create money, then you can use your money to create time.
Well, and I also know, while yes, the contributions are fabulous and they need those because they need things immediately. It's also good for them to get money because sometimes they have suppliers they can buy from at deeply discounted rates.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
And so it's good to have both.
Thank you. Okay, how are we doing with bold, guys? I am looking at some of these numbers, and we have great goals. We're not quite hitting the 200 contacts, and I know that's a hell of a lot. I'll be the first to tell you that. How are we doing overall? Are you noticing any changes? Are you committing to any changes in your workday, using your time so that you can be more efficient or have more conversations? Talk to me about how you've made adjustments during this time period.
Well, instead of listening to Audible, I'm calling people.
Good.
That's a change. Yeah.
Good. Jenny, just
I usually,
a personal note for you. Let's talk today and get on the calendar to do a private session, okay?
okay, Bill. Yeah.
I can hear the excitement in her voice.
I know it. Accountability.
These are your goals, not mine now.
Oh, you're right. 100%. I need it, and I appreciate it. I really, really appreciate it.
I was trying to stay vague. You're the one going into detail now, just for the record.
I know it. I think everybody knows.
All right. Jenny's awesome. I appreciate you being here.
Thank
Okay.
you, Bill.
So talk to me more about your things there. Are you spending more time doing the work, or are you spending the time doing more efficient work? Walk me through that.
Let me think about it for a minute.
I'll talk while she's thinking about it. I am spending it was after 7:00 last night. I had a goal to talk to 55 people. I had 49 conversations.
Good, Kathy.
But I mean, I was exhausted. I didn't get out of bed this morning like I normally. I got up at 6:30 instead of 5:30. So, and I feel like I've been beat up. I mean, I know I need to talk to more people, but I didn't have any time, no time in command yesterday. Everything I did, I wrote it down because I can't. If I get in command, I get distracted.
Okay.
So I've got lots of things to add, lots of people to add to my database, but I didn't spend any time in command yesterday.
Did you see how Leslie Peters got her son to do it? That was really smart.
What?
He wanted a gaming system or something, and so she hired him to enter her contacts.
Yeah, to do all her updating in command.
Yeah, he's 12.
I hired my little neighbor kid who was 14 to do it one time.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
I love that. Guys, that's
Brilliant.
leverage. That's leverage. Kathy, when you spend an hour fiddling around with command and adding contacts in, when you're done with that, like, do you get fulfillment from that?
I do, but I didn't have time to do it yesterday.
Okay, well, you're strange. Does anyone else?
I do like it. I like mastering stuff. I like knowing everything about what I'm doing, everything.
I like mastering the things that I like doing, and I like letting somebody else master the things that I'm going to let them do.
And that's why you're leveraged better than I am. But because I'll just get stuck in command, gonna be the expert on it, you know.
Yep.
Well, my son will be home this weekend, and he needs money, so I'm just going to give him my little notebook and let him.
There you go.
There you go. That's what I would do. That like there were times where I would have like a little sheet in front of me all day that I was scribbling on.
Yeah.
Or I would have Skype open, and every time I had a note, I would just put it in Skype, right? So I would type it in Skype instead of command, so that I wouldn't have to hit a bunch of buttons. I would just be typing as I was speaking, and then at the end of my calling time, I just hit the send button, and the next day, poof, it's in my system because I've trained my VA to do it that way, right?
See, I
So-
can't do that. I can't concentrate on a conversation and do something else.
Oh, me neither, Kathy. Me neither.
Or are you taking notes?
Well, you're taking notes, so you're just doing it in a different
No,
way.
I'm-
Like for me personally, I type a whole lot faster than I can write.
Right.
So yeah, I type.
Well, I think it's allocating a certain amount of time every day, like really structuring our day and scheduling it for these things, and
Exactly.
making the shift of, okay, I don't love this part, but I've got to get proficient at it.
Exactly. And you say to yourself, okay, do I type faster or write faster? I don't care which one it is. If you have a scribble sheet of paper that's got a bunch of notes on it from your calling session, then you could just take a picture of this and say, okay, put this in all the appropriate places,
Yeah.
right? So if you do it on the computer faster, write faster, makes no difference. See, you have all the jobs until you can pay somebody to relieve you of some of the jobs. And I'm not here to
Yes.
tell anybody that it's time to hire or it's not time to hire. I just want you to examine all of the efforts you put out there for all of the work that's got to get done. And you will find that some of your activities, let's just say 20% of your activities, yield 80% of your results, and 80%
Wow.
of your activities reveal or result in 20% of the results. And so our job is to get more focused and more refined on the stuff that doesn't create the big results, and slowly allow somebody else to do that for you, right? And even if it means hiring the neighbor kid or whatever, or whoever it is. I mean, literally my daughter knows how to work Zoom better than I do. She's 7.
Right.
Okay, these kids are really smart. I'm thinking about saying, hey, here's a list of, here's the Marty Miller, 66-day challenge, Miriam Shana. I want you to go learn this system. You like living here? You like free dinner? You like free school? Get to work.
Well, also the other thing that we should think about is that used to, when we would work on a CRM or whatever, it might not transfer over. It might not, everything we enter in command now will be able to be used forever. Like
right.
it's only to our advantage that we enter their birthday. Take a minute and enter their birthday.
That's right. So remember, our job when we're on the phone with these people is to update data and get data. Okay, update data and get data. Let me tell you something. Do you know that Zillow last year, if this is not one of the most obvious things I've ever seen, you're not even paying attention. Okay, Zillow said, and this is before COVID, but they said that they were going to buy 5,000 homes a month in the United States. Okay, if you take that number, that's 60,000 homes a month multiplied by median price in America, which is about 250 roughly, that's $15 billion worth of real estate. Then in the next sentence, they went on record saying that they don't even care if they make money. They're not even trying to make money. They lose thousands of dollars every time they buy and resell a home. So if they don't care about making money, what the hell are they doing? They're after the data. Okay, that's the oil of the future. That's the currency of the future. And make no bones about it, that's what KW is doing also. The question is, are they going to use it for the benefit of their people, or are they going to use it for something different, right? KW using it for their people and has data pledges, and obviously has 28,000 agents from across the country have flown into Austin to work on command together. Right, Zillow is not doing anything like that.
And you know what else? Zillow, like when Loop or whatever, they would have all of our clients' financial information, like their social security number from the loan.
Oh, we're not putting you guys through this to DocuSign. We're not putting you through this just to create more work. We had a unique agreement with .loop for the last 10 years or something. Now that Zillow owns .loop and that agreement is expired, we're leaving .loop because they won't honor our data needs, right? Every other brokerage out there that
That's
uses
a big deal.
what?
That's just a big deal.
It's a huge deal. You guys, there's a book. It's like a little tiny. It's got a little political spin on it. Let me see if. Oh, here it is. This is not what I anticipated talking about today, but I'm going to throw it out there anyway. Can you guys see this? It's called "Thank You for Being Late." Okay.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that.
Thank you for being late. This is such an interesting read. Okay. This is it's got a little politicalness to it, but you can overlook it pretty quickly. They're pretty strong opinionated on climate change. Not saying climate change is happening or not happening. I'm staying out of that. Okay. One of the unique things that they talk about is how they're using data. I'll give you an example. This is also not something I anticipated talking about this morning, but I think you guys will find this to be really interesting. So they tell a story of a dairy farmer, like a family dairy farmer in Japan. And they've only got a handful of people working at the dairy farm, right? And what's the goal of business, right? To be as efficient as possible. So a dairy farmer, you can imagine that when these cows are fertile, right, that they've got to take advantage of that little window, right? So a cow is, I can't believe I'm talking about this. A cow is fertile about once every 18 to 21 days, okay, or roughly every 21 days. And the window that they are fertile is only about 18 hours. And more often than not, it's in the middle of the night.
What?
Yeah. Okay.
I majored in agriculture and I didn't know that.
So basically, let's imagine you're a little family dairy farmer. It's very difficult to determine which cow is fertile and when and keep track of it all and be efficient, right? Mm-hmm. So how can they use data to create more efficiencies there? So that they were trying to identify how can we figure out which cow is fertile when, right? So they figured out that they could put pedometers on the cow, and immediately prior to a cow becoming fertile, they take like an abnormally higher number of steps. Okay. So now you got a bunch of cows. Let's say you got 25 cows, and cow number 16 has taken like twice as many steps as the rest of them. Okay, that tells you cow 16 is ready, right? And then they would hook that up to a text messaging system where rather than the dairy farmer having to spend all day being awake and kind of trying to look for clues and, you know, trying to figure out which one is ready at which time, then they would just be asleep and they'd get a text that says, hey, go check out cow 16, it's ready. You know what I'm saying? Now, then they went farther and they said, now, if we inseminate this cow at in the first 4-hour time period after we get that alert, then it's like a 90% chance the offspring will be male. If they inseminate the cow in like hours 4 through 8 after they get that alert, there's like a 90% chance the offspring would be a female. So don't you think it would be more efficient to be able to, number one, get more sleep, number two, know which cow is fertile when, and number three, to be able to control the ratios of males and females in your flock? Mm-hmm. That's what data can do. Okay, that's where we're headed. So if you're not involved in helping to create the data or using the insights from the data, you're going to get lost in the shuffle. Okay, I'll give you one more example. This one's not quite as sexual. Okay, let's say Kathy, you buy a particular type of car and you live in Chicago. Okay, and at the very same time, Jenny, you buy the same exact car and you live in Miami. Okay, and let's say the manufacturer says that you should change your tires after 40,000 miles. Okay, And that's as efficient as they're getting. Hey, around 40,000 miles, you should change your tires, right? So what's going to end up happening is when you drive your car in Chicago versus me driving, or Jenny driving her car in Miami, you're going to drive it at different paces, different weather, different traffic conditions, etc. And if you both change the tires at 40,000 miles on the dot, what's going to happen is one of you is probably going to change it prematurely, right? And one of you is probably going to have driven on unsafe tires for a while. Does that make sense? So how do you fix
Yes.
that? You fix that with data, right? So you write a little algorithm that says, okay, well, when the threads get to this level, it's going to text you an alert that says, hey, now's the time. And that text may come in at 28,000 miles, and it might come in at 52,000 miles. Make sense? So that is where data can create efficiency. So it's no longer, hey, around 30,000 miles, you should get your oil changed. It's like, no, I'll let you know exactly when your vehicle needs an oil change based on the way you've been driving it.
So how can we apply this to real estate?
Great question. So those are things that Command is in the process of accumulating all this data to know. For example, this is not in place yet, but this is like an example of an idea that we have is, let's say, Andrew, you're about to submit, or you just took that new listing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you put in the listing into the KW system, and KW reads that data and basically says, hey, congratulations, you just took a 4-bed, 2.5-bath listing in Woodstock in this particular school district. What we know from analyzing thousands of listings similar to yours and thousands of people that have bought homes similar to yours, we know that marketing plan 6 is 15% more effective than marketing plan 1, and marketing plan 7 is 40% more effective than that. Click here if you'd like us to start marketing plan 6 for you.
And that's in that area, and like that.
Yeah, it's, I mean, they'll probably have it where you can control the way that you analyze that data at some point. So that is, and on the buyer side, you submit an offer. They read your offer. You submit an offer to the system, if you will, before you send it to the seller. So the system reads it and says, hey, congratulations, you're working with a 4-bed, 2.5-bath buyer in Woodstock. And what we know from having analyzed your contract and thousands of others is, as written, your contract has a 45% chance of being accepted. However, if you change this and this and this, it'll move it up to a 93% chance. Would you like us to do that for you? Click here.
Are you serious?
That's what data is going to be able to do for us. So when a company comes out and says, hey, we're going to go put 15 billion out and hope that we get we don't lose our shorts in the meantime, they're after the data, guys. So what I would be doing right now, I was thinking about this on the way in today. Have you guys ever seen that? I'll see if I can post it a little bit later. There's an interview from I think it's 94 or 95, and I think it's Katie Couric and Brian Gumbel are talking about the internet. It's the funniest thing you've ever heard. It's like, we have to understand that our world is changing, and our job, if this last couple months has not been a clear example, you're missing the boat. Okay, you've got to be able to run your business digitally. You've got to be able to figure out how to do appointments digitally. Everyone needs a Zoom account. You've got to figure out how to do your presentations digitally, get everything signed digitally, communicate digitally, build rapport digitally. If you're not doing that, you're going to get lost in the shuffle. My father owns a retail store downtown. It's a family business. He's been around for 60 years. It's over. It's over.
No.
What are you talking about? No.
The malls are getting almost out of business too, because nobody shops there anymore. It's all on Amazon and stuff.
Hey, look, I'm not taking donations, but I'm telling you that's an antiquated model.
Yeah, I know.
Okay? And so if he doesn't adjust, he's not going to have that business anymore. And it just so, I mean, he's about to retire anyway. But the fact is that thank God the timing came as it did.
Mm-hmm.
If it came 20 years ago when he was trying to put us through college, it would have been a whole different story, right? So you've got to figure out how to adjust in this world. And the people that come out of this shift, the the most tech savvy and running their businesses as lean as possible will clobber all these other people. Clobber.
That data will probably tell us too what each person in each house is thinking, like when they will move, be likely to move, and what the percentages are.
Oh, for sure. I mean,
We have that somewhat in Remine right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Remind.
From a leadership perspective, we can look at our roster, and they haven't hooked this final system up yet, but like we know what you guys are getting paid, right? We know when you're taking listings, when you're putting green sheets out there. We know whether you're attending classes or not. We're tracking the productivity of the people that attend classes versus the ones that don't attend classes, right? They even they're about to have a little thing on there that says flight risk, right? So based on how you're interacting with the market center and whether you're going to training and how often you get paid and trending over year by year and month by month, we can identify who's the biggest flight risk, right? Which is another way of saying who's unengaged, who's broke, right? And how do we need to identify you, and then what do we need to do to point you in the right direction?
Hey, if that ever ends up being me, just let me know.
Yes, sir. You better believe it. You're going to get a call from me bright and early.
Okay.
Hey, that phone call I just took was a client of mine who used to be in PR and marketing for a bank, and we're getting ready to list his house. But I called him yesterday and just to see if he needed anything else from me. And when he answered the phone, he said something about his new title, and started telling me about the loans he can do. And I have a new buyer who I got because he's the voice behind my yard service, the lawn sprayer, that comes sprays my yard. Yeah. And last Friday I said to him, "Hey, Chad, do you know that I'm a real estate agent?" And he said, "No, I didn't know that." And I said, "Yeah, I am. And if you or anybody wants to buy or sell a house, I want you to think of me." And he said, "Well, we're actually getting ready to build a house in Ball Ground." And I said, "Well, that's awesome. Congratulations."
Check for radon.
Check for radon. Yeah. So on Saturday morning,
everything I've ever heard of in Ball Ground has radon.
Yeah. Saturday morning, I was on my way to my open house, and Saturday afternoon, and he texted me and said, "Please call me as soon as possible." And I called him, and he said, "Hey, our lender called last night and said they're not doing any construction loans, at least through the rest of the year. So we can't build a house." But then there was a little blip with his credit because I got him hooked up with Keller Mortgage. And then when I called my client Corbin yesterday, he starts talking about these niche loans. He just called me to say, "Hey, they're qualified." Keller Mortgage said they weren't qualified, but Corbin said, "Yes, she has incredible credit, and I'm sending you over a pre-qual letter. Go buy a house."
That's why it's number one. That's why it's nice. Congratulations.
That's great, Kathy.
To have multiple people in your world, number one. That's why it's nice to make those phone calls. I mean, isn't it interesting? There's a connection between phone calls and business. It's so strange. It's so strange. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and then another buyer who wants to buy some land and build a house on it. Kathy Vitale got me hooked up with Synovus last week, and Synovus said, "No, we can't we can't do that right now." So then I called Corbin back yesterday and said, "Are y'all doing these?" He said, "Yeah." So I got him hooked up with only because I called to check in on him with some roof repairs, and learned that he is in a new. I usually talk to his husband. So I called him. I said, "You get to talk to me today." And because I chose to call him instead of Daniel, I got buyers hooked up with him and the loans that they can do, which others aren't doing right now.
You're being of service. You're calling because you've got data and you've got opportunity, and you've got a network of people that can support you, and all you're doing is sharing that. And as a result, you're going to get paid handsomely multiple times.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
So
just calling people.
fantastic. That's fantastic. All right. Please take a moment to put in your numbers if you have not done so. I'm looking for, remember that the green row is goals, the light green row is goals, and the light gray row is actuals. If you could make sure that the week of May 1st through May 10th is complete, and make sure that the goals for May 11 through 17 is done, that would be incredibly kind of you. I will post the link right here, so it is super easy for everybody. You can quickly access it right now if you've not done that. It just takes a moment. And for those that we have not scheduled we have not had a one-on-one in a little while, or you have questions about your economic model, or you want to review your economic model, just send me a private WhatsApp and we'll get you on the calendar right away. And I hope to see you guys a little bit later today at Red Day. So any other questions?
Yes. So you were saying on the charts where you have the green and then you have the white under it, which is the actual. So do you do your green at the start of the week
Yes.
and put what you want, and then at the end of the week you put the what you did?
Exactly. So like, for example, on Sunday, which was May 10th, in a perfect world, you would put your grays in there, because that's what you did. That's what your actuals were for this week that was about to end, or that was ending. And then you go ahead and go to the next tab and you put in the stuff in green, because that's your goals for the next tab.
Okay.
Okay. Keep up your hard work on Bold. Bold Pivot. I am working on just some more detail on the PC plans to give you some additional ideas on what to do each day. I think a great call, even after Bold Pivot ended, I'm calling people to say, hey, I'm learning a lot in Bold. I know we talked about Bold. Would it be okay if I shared to schedule a short time to share some of the key takeaways with you? Or, hey, I'm just so excited. We had, we brought in, 18,000, things of corn or whatever. It's not too late to make a donation. It could be just let people know that you're out there doing the best thing you can for people. Okay. Even if Red Day's passed, you can raise things for the same charity and still get the same benefit, emotionally and from a perspective, from how people see that you're serving the community. Okay. All right, team. Have a great day. Thank you.
Hey, Bill, do you have time for one more question?
Yeah.
I have an appointment tonight with a potential buyer.
Okay.
And I just wanted to know if any of you have any tips. I mean, I have my buyer consultation presentation from Ignite. Any tips, anything that I should be sure to focus on or think of or ask? And again, this person is kind of tentative. She's sort of ready, but is not quite ready to make a commitment yet. But we haven't really spoken yet. She's a friend of my son's.
Does she have a pre-approval letter?
I haven't asked her yet because I haven't spoken with her yet. We just made an appointment to talk tonight. So this is just a conversation, not quite a buyer consultation, but I'm not sure if it's going to transition into that during this call.
Definitely give her your lender's phone number.
I would be pretty surprised if it does not transition into what feels like an appointment pretty quickly.
That's what I'm anticipating too. So I want to make sure that I don't forget anything, or based on your personal experiences.
There's a sheet in the Google Drive called Buyer Intake. That's a great place to go to for some scripts. Not scripts necessarily, but questions that you should be gathering that information.
Okay.
And then I would take a very do less talking and let them do more talking. So you're asking things like, what is your motivation for purchasing, essentially? right? Do you have a time frame in mind? You know, what parts of town are you considering? Why are those important to you, right? You want to get to the heart of what is driving this decision, right? Is it a financially driven decision? Is it is it something to do with the job? Is it something to do with getting closer to church or school or soccer practice or whatever? Like, what's driving the decision? Because we're gonna have to revisit this often. Okay. You know, you want to ask, have you ever had interaction? Have you ever worked with a real estate agent before? I always love these two questions, right? Have you ever worked with a real estate agent before? Most of the people will say yes, right? And then I might say to them afterwards, so tell me about uh, some of the experiences that you've had with real estate agents that were not positive, right? And you say, oh, well, they didn't communicate with me enough. Okay, so what would be the perfect what would be the perfect communication standard for you, right? So you're essentially finding out what can you do that's going to piss them off, and what can you do that's going to make them really happy, right? And then I might say to them, you know, my job is to create the most incredible experience for you possible. I want to have an emphasis on education and patience, and I want to help you get exactly what you want. So help me understand what that looks like. And then when they say, well, I want a big yard, say, what's important to you about having a big yard, right? Or a big yard means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. What does it mean to you, right? Do they want a big yard so they can throw a football? Or do they want a big yard because they grew up with a big yard? Like, why do they want a big yard, right? Why do you want an open floor plan? Why do you not want an open floor plan? So don't be afraid to ask those deep questions, because what's going to end up happening is the more questions you ask, the more of a rapport you're going to build, and the more that they're going to talk. And when that appointment is over, the person who talked the most feels the best about it.
Yeah, I know there's another agent that's been kind of courting her and trying to get her to sign, you know, an agreement.
Mm-hmm.
And so she hasn't done that yet because she wanted to talk to me first.
Beautiful. So at the end of those appointments, what I always did is I emailed them a copy of the buyer brokerage agreement. And I just said, there is an agreement that takes our status from a customer to a client. Okay. And I'd like for you to just take a moment to read through this. I'm not going to ask you to sign it today. I intend to earn your business by executing all of the things that you just told me were important, right? But I do want you to read through it, and I want you to understand that I'm only supposed to do certain tasks with you until this is signed, and then I can do more. I can offer more things to you. Okay. And then the next time you speak, say, hey, did you get a chance to review the buyer brokerage agreement? Do you have any questions? Are you ready to meet? I never pushed it too hard. I always brought it up, right? But I didn't push it too hard. And then what would end up happening is they're like, can I fax it to you? We used to use fax machines. Andrew, do you know what that is?
I do. I've never had to use one.
Yeah, we used to have these things that called fax machines. Pretty cool. All right. Y'all have a great day.
Something else I could add to that too is you know, you can sell yourself on the fact that, hey, this is a great time to buy a house right now because the interest rates are so low and there's an influx of people selling their homes right now, because you can see those numbers, you know, that Aubrey showed yesterday. You know how many homes are on the market now is a lot, and you know, it's a really great time to buy a house. And also, your services as a buyer's agent don't cost them any money because the seller pays your commission.
That's another really good point to make. I always said that at the very beginning is, number one, the great part about working with a real estate agent is the buyer's agent is paid by the seller. So number one, it doesn't cost you anything. And number two, I want you to understand a couple of things. I know you're going to be out there looking at property, and I totally get that. Here's a really cool app that you can use that might make that easier, more enjoyable for you. But if you find any property out there listed wherever you happen to find it, listed by whatever agent it happens to be, I want you to understand that it's a property that I can help you pursue. Okay, and my fee will ultimately be paid by somebody outside of you, not you. The cool part about that is I don't have to pressure you to buy anything, right? So if we walk into house number 1 and it's too big or too small or too whatever, and you say, this is not for me, you say, all right, get back in the car. It's not for me either, right? And so there's no, there's not like one home I'm like trying to push you to buy. If you don't like it, let's move on. If you like it, I'm going to work as hard as I possibly can to secure it for you. Right.
And, one last thing too. So my listing I got, there was another agent that's been doing this for a long time that was trying to get her to list with her. And she told me that, and I said, here's the difference. If you go with me, I'm focusing all my energy on you, and it will mean a lot to me if you let me list this house. It would change my life. I would really, really love that. And maybe that's why she went with me. I don't know.
If I was to bet, I would say that statement made a huge impact.
I agree.
Yeah.
Huge impact.
Thank you.
Right. People need to know that people buy why you do what you do. Right. Don't be afraid to get emotional. Say, look, I do this because I love helping people build wealth. I love helping people search for the home that their family is going to spend all their time in. Right. And there is a cool stat. Who posted this? Amanda Churchwell. If you guys follow her, she runs a contract to close business in town, and we've been friends for a while. And she posted something like, since COVID started, the inquiries for home office within a home have like doubled, and the inquiries for having a home with a pool have like tripled. And because people are going to be, if you guys think this is the last time we're going to get quarantined, you're not paying attention.
Yeah.
This is going to happen again, and people want to have their little estate, right? People used to be like open floor plan, right? And it even caught on in the commercial space with these, what do you call it?
Got the communal offices.
Yeah, and like everyone's working around a big table and cubicles, right? Cubicle farms. Now people don't, that's not good. They want their little private space. So things are changing, guys. Great points today, guys. Great. I'm really, thank you for the masterminding there. I'm sure everyone will benefit from that. All right, let's go benefit the community today and rest up, make your calls, turn in your numbers, and we'll catch you tomorrow morning, bright and early.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, guys.
right.
Thank you, Andrew.
Jenny, message me now.